Good evening. We're calling to order the City of Oxnard Planning Commission for February 6, 2020. I don't know why. Is this a special meeting?
No, this is a regular
Regular meeting. Okay. Can we have roll call, please?
Chair Frank,
Here.
Vice Chair Chua,
Here.
Commissioner Chavez,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer,
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Here.
Commissioner Fearing,
Here.
Commissioner Dozier.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Fearing, will you lead us in the pledge?
Please rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're moving on to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. I have one speaker card. If you want to speak, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to our assistant here, Jackie Tedeschi.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you all for all the work you do. I really consider the Planning Department, I'll say, I'm going to use the phrase mini, but a City Council for your importance, so thank you. I come before you to talk about that last night at the INCO, I was unable to attend the meeting. That's not like me, but I was detained in the San Fernando Valley. And when it came to things for the Neighborhood Council Chair reports, I was not able to announce that on February 20th, it's on a Thursday, at 7 o'clock, the South Bank Neighborhood Council is having a meeting, and it's going to be on, the subject is going to be Adam Smith regarding the Quimby funds. So I thought anybody listening might be interested in coming and hope that people show up. And it's at our usual place, the golf club. Anyway, the other thing is that I want to mention, okay, that is because I'm the chair of the South Bank Neighborhood Council. Now, just as a South Bank resident, when I go to the RiverPark and I go underneath the freeway, and I'm going to get on the freeway to go north to Ventura, the projects that are on the right-hand side, so that would be let's see, south side, when I'm making the turn to go onto the freeway. The markings, maybe I should say this at a Public Works Department, but the markings on the street, they're nice and clear for the simple reason that they've been newly striped and all this and that, but oh brother, I mean, it is confusing. I mean, I'm careful, and I'm sure everybody else is too, but between merging and coming from around on where some of the medical buildings are on Ventura Road, I hope people are more careful because it's really difficult. And because that's tied in with, well, for one thing, there's a grand opening in Oakmont, and you received that in the mail. So I just wanted to make some of those points, and then I'm also going to talk under the hearing. Thank you.
Right, I see that. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to speak at public comment? Seeing no one, I'll close public comment. We'll move to our consent agenda. Approval of the January 9, 2020 minutes. Everyone have an opportunity to review those? Any additions, comments, deletions, corrections? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve the January 9th, 2020 minutes.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Sanchez abstains. Moving to D2, approval of the January 16, 2020 minutes. Everyone review them? Comments, changes, anything? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Chavez moves to approve. Second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Yeah, Dozier and Fearing abstaining. Generically, let's talk about ex parte declarations. Any ex parte declarations for any item in our following agenda items? No.
No.
Okay, moving to public hearing F1. This is Wagon Wheel Alcohol Special Use Permit, Planning and Zoning Permit number 19-510-05. Our planner is Veronica Ortiz. Ms. Ortiz.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Chua, and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Veronica Ortiz de Anda, and I'm very pleased to be here before you. And I apologize in advance because I do have a cold, so I'll be wiping now and then throughout my presentation. The application before you is Planning and Zoning Permit number 1951005. This is a request for a special use permit for alcohol sales. The specific request is to approve the preliminary approval of alcohol sales and service in the commercial spaces within the village-specific plan, also known as the Wagon Wheel Project area. The request would be to approve allow up to 7 establishments for alcohol sales for on-site consumption and 1 establishment for sales for off-site consumption. The request here, the proposed locations are these that are in color. Specifically, the A locations would be locations for on-site consumption that would have the option to have an outdoor patio where alcohol would also be served. The B locations would also have on-site consumption, and the X location is the one location that would have sales for off-site consumption. And these are in Planning Area 17, also known as Town Square, and Planning Area 18, the junction of the specific plan. The request involves hours restrictions as well. The businesses with on-site consumption would be allowed to have sales Sunday through Thursday from 7 in the morning to midnight, and Friday and Saturday from 7 in the morning to 1 in the morning. The one location for off-site consumption would be allowed to have sales from 7 in the morning to midnight on a daily basis. The request also involves, so the SUP would be kind of a blanket approval per se to allow those specific locations to have alcohol sales, and individual businesses seeking to locate to those locations would be required to file a minor modification to the special use permit, where all the conditions of the SUP would be incorporated into the minor modification, and the business application for the minor modification would be reviewed thoroughly by the planning and the police staff, and specific conditions for that business would be tailored in the minor modification. Once again, the commercial areas that are in question in this project are Planning Area 17 and 18. And so the Wagon Wheel Project area is located towards the north end of the city, right next to the Santa Clara River. The general plan and zoning designation are the same, village-specific plan for both. The surrounding land uses here, it's a little hard to see on the west end, but on the north end, we have the river across the freeway 101. We have residential, the Oakmont apartments that are under construction or almost complete, and then there is also the landing, the commercial part of that part of RiverPark. Towards the east, we have the Esplanade Center, where we have commercial retail and eateries. On the south side, we have residential, the South Bank community, single-family homes, and a mobile home park. And the west is a little hard to see, but the Santa Clara River, which is part of the county's jurisdiction. I'm going to take a couple minutes to give a brief overview of the specific plan to bring some context into the presentation. As some commissioners may recall, the village-specific plan is about 63 acres, originally approved in January of 2009, subsequently amended in 2016. There was a final EIR that was certified in 2008, and the amendment had a supplemental EIR that went along with that, and that was certified in 2015. The project, the specific plan was approved is made up of 21 planning areas, and the yellow, light brown, and the orange are the residential areas. The green are the open space and park locations, and these would be public parks, not private parks. And the blue, a transit center location, which actually that's a former location. The amendment of 2016 approved the relocation to what you see planning area 20 and 21. And then the purple is the mixed use, the commercial and residential development. And all of the commercial aspects of this specific plan area are in those purple areas, the mixed use areas, where you have the commercial on the ground floor and then residential up above. And this is a colorful site plan showing the different neighborhoods that make up the specific plan. As you can see, some of them, because this specific plan is still under development, not all of it has been approved for development, and so you see some areas, names to be determined of future neighborhoods. Some of the neighborhoods that have been built and are complete are on the bottom of the slide. You see the Village Families Apartments, which are 120 units. Right next to that, the Junction, you have commercial, about 16,000 square feet, and then you have apartments, 219 of those. Town Square has about 452 units, and the commercial part of that is about 34,000 square feet, excuse me, and it is under construction. Oxford Flats, you see one building that's complete, and it's very close to the intersection, and that is part of Oxford Flats, and that's 144 units. Condominiums that are under construction. Park Place townhomes that are kind of at the center of the project area, 78 units, and those are under construction. These are some photos of those projects. And actually, I didn't talk about Mayfair, but Mayfair is also under construction. And 88 units, a picture of the Village Apartments, the 120 units, and that's one of the affordable housing parts of this project. All of them are affordable. Park Place townhomes, ownership units under construction, and the models are open. And Oxford Flats, those are the two buildings that you see near the 101, also ownership and under construction. And then the two sites that are in question for this application, the Junction, you see the commercial already built and completed, and then Town Square, and that's the parking structure that you see right now that is part of that project, and it's under construction. So I'm going to digress a little bit and talk about the collection. And so what is being proposed before the Planning Commission is not something new per se. Currently, we implement a similar process for the collection. So the collection, Chapter 7 of the RiverPark Pacific Plan required that that each business obtain what we call a Development Design Review Permit, a DDR, for alcohol outlets to be established there. And then in June of 2013, a master DDR permit was approved, allowing subsequent alcohol outlets to be reviewed and approved via the minor modification process, which is an administrative process, and the DDR itself is also an administrative process. Very briefly, the collection is made up of about 600,000 square feet of commercial development. There are currently 21 alcohol outlets. There is no cap on the number of outlets that can be there. But once again, they are reviewed individually as they are proposed. The sales of alcohol is limited to 1 o'clock in the morning. There is security personnel on site, and once again, they are reviewed via the minor modification process. This is a table that shows the types of alcohol licenses that are at the collection currently. So there's 21 total, and as you can see, there's different kinds and types. And Whole Foods is kind of a strange animal. They have a permit for sales for on-site and off-site. They have a small restaurant sit-down area in the Market store, and then of course Target store is the giant retail store with sales for off-site consumption. So the village-specific plan, specifically Table 2.4, lists the general land uses that are allowed in the mixed-use areas, in those purple areas that we saw previously in the map. And that table specifies that businesses proposing to have alcohol sales, that they have approval of a special use permit. The special caveat that's being presented here before the commission is that subsequent future businesses, that they would be reviewed and processed via the minor modification procedures. This slide gives a very general comparison between RiverPark and the village-specific plan areas. Of course, RiverPark has a much larger commercial component, and they don't have a cap on alcohol outlets. The village-specific plan would have up to 8. Similar alcohol sales, similar hours for alcohol sales would be allowed. They're both required to have on-site security personnel, and they're both would be processed under the minor modification review process. So this is bringing it back. Once again, the sites that are proposed for this request, there's 8 of them. In accordance with City Council Resolution 1189, and I forgot it. 11892. Thank you. The police personnel does review the any applications requesting approval for alcohol sales, and police department prepares a report. And the report for this application shows that there are no outlets within 350 feet. There are 2 within 1,000 feet. The report concluded that the village-specific plan area does not have a policing problem. However, this request would create an undue concentration of licenses in that area. The report did raise concerns about proximity of the homeless encampment that is next to the Santa Clara River, and did also raise concerns about possible noise disturbances from the businesses to the residents that live above. However, the conclusion was that with the conditions of approval that are being proposed and would be imposed on this project, that it's unlikely that there would be policing problems. The graph shows a comparison, a crime rate comparison for the different types of crime in the city. They call them Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. And the location for the applicant's rate is just slightly over the citywide annual rate, but significantly lower than the citywide commercial annual rate. So the specific conditions that were included to help mitigate impacts to not just business owners, but business patrons, and to the residents that live in the mixed-use areas and in the specific plan area. Condition number 12, requiring that minor modification, which allows the city to carefully review businesses individually and tailor conditions to that specific business. Condition number 14, that via the minor mod process, a noise study can be required for businesses that propose live music or amplified sound, whether it be indoors or outdoors. And condition 18, which restricts, states that sales have to be ancillary, and so an alcohol-only store, such as a liquor store, would not be allowed. Condition 19 really provides the planning and police staff the ability to respond in a timely manner if there's a disturbance or a police problem that arises. And by timely, we would be able to meet with the business and then have a meeting and address the issue within 30 days with a meeting with the police chief if necessary, as opposed to having it to schedule and come back to Planning Commission to modify conditions. Condition number 20, which would prohibit the sales, the marketing material from being placed, alcohol marketing material from being placed on the window or in a location inside where it can be easily seen from the outside. Which really, when businesses do that, they're soliciting business from folks that don't live in that immediate vicinity. Condition number 22 would require businesses to have video surveillance cameras. Conditions number 37 and 66 restricts the hours of operation for the businesses for on-site and for off-site. Condition number 33, the businesses would be required to regularly patrol their premises. Number 71 allows the police department the flexibility to restrict the sale of single-can containers when it's needed. Condition number 80 requires the landlord and/or the owner of the project area to have regular human patrol throughout the specific planned project area once there are 2 alcohol outlets established. Community input, there was a community workshop that took place on October 21st. The residents of the specific plan area and the South Bank neighborhood were properly noticed. The applicant also attended, I think it was the next day, a meeting with the South Bank neighborhood council. 2 persons attended the city's community workshop, and 1 person was there and asked for an explanation, a clarification about the request. And the other person had concerns about the proximity of the homeless and with what impacts that could have, not just to business owners, but to people who live in South Bank who want to walk and visit those businesses in the evening. That person also raised concerns about the noise impacts that these businesses being open at night could have on the residents that reside there, and vandalism. Our police representative and myself, we attended the meeting, and we spoke with the person who raised these concerns, and all of those were taken into consideration when the conditions were created that are before you. Environmental review. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the village-specific plan had an EIR, and it was certified in September of 2009, and there was an amendment that was proposed subsequently to that, and the supplemental impact report was certified in July 28th of 2015 by the City Council. Since then, there have been no substantial changes to the project. No new information has arisen, and the request that's being proposed is consistent with the planned uses of the mixed-use areas in the village-specific plan, and therefore, per Public Resource Code Section 21166 and Sections 15162 and 15164 of the CEQA guidelines, no further review is required. The recommendation before the Commission tonight is to approve the project as conditioned with a few corrections. One of those corrections is to remove condition 21 that talks about general alcohol hours. The hours are specified for off-site consumption and on-site consumption are specified under their subheadings. And also make a change to condition 68A to add the wording in the wagon wheel specific plan project area because it doesn't specify where the human patrol would be required. I believe it's specified in B, but not in A. So it would be a correction to add that language.
Rather than 68, would that be 71, Andy?
Yep.
Let's see.
68 does not have any subsections.
I actually have condition 80. Does that, condition 80,
It's 30, it's, yeah.
Ours look a little bit different.
condition 80A?
88?
80 subpart A.
No, no.
A.
Now I can't find it. It's where you talk about the human patrol.
That's police special conditions.
Yes,
number-
it's 68A. Once there are 2 or more licensed and permitted alcohol establishments, and insert operating within wagon wheel specific plan, comma, a minimum of 1 uniformed security officer is required to patrol the property. Because if you read 68B, it contains that language, 62A does not. So that infers that that applies to somewhere else or could apply to somewhere else. This is something I brought up just for consistency with the language in the police special conditions. That's all it is. Right?
But
Yes, yes, and
for clarification,
Sure.
what the chair read is from the police condition staff report. It's not the resolution itself, but the resolution itself, it's condition, is it condition 80?
80
80,
parts.
not 68 then.
Exactly.
That's,
My apologies, yes. In the resolution, condition 80, subpart C,
See,
would have that added language.
exactly.
okay.
Good. Any questions of staff? I don't see any. Is the applicant here and wants to make a presentation?
The applicant is here.
Thank you. Do you want to make a presentation?
I don't want to make a presentation, but I just have a couple comments if I
Sure.
could make. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time and consideration on this. My name is Corey Harpel with Oakwood Communities. We're the developer on the Wagonville project. Like I said, I don't have a presentation. I just want to say we concur with the staff report and the conditions, and I'm available for any questions. And so I'd like to thank staff for their time, especially Ms. Ortiz and Mr. Swinson. They've been very cooperative and very helpful in working, helped me work through this. But I just want to thank everybody for their time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Chavez has some issues.
Okay?
Thank you for for being here tonight. Question, do you know which 8 restaurants or businesses plan on coming into the location?
I do not. We're the from our retail standpoint, we have a lease signed with a nail salon, which would probably not be part of the alcohol program, and we do have the convenience store person who signed a lease as well. We are looking for tenants. We've identified the 2 outdoor areas of special use. One would be the bowling alley that we'd like to bring back to Wagon Wheel, and then the other one we're looking for a restaurant, brewery, brew pub type facility to be in there as well. So that's kind of what we're looking for. But we're knocking on doors and trying to find tenants to come in.
Why was it determined that you wanted 8?
For flexibility, just so we don't have a hindrance. If we find a taqueria that wants to come in and serve beer for lunch hour or in the evening for that time, we just want to have the flexibility afforded to us so we could get out there and find someone.
Was it your request to have hours of sale to be to midnight on Sunday through Thursday? Or was that something that the city proposed to you?
That was something that we agreed to. It was kind of a negotiated, but that was something the city gave us initially, and we actually requested, and the city concurred on Saturdays, and Fridays and Saturdays on the other ones that go to 1 a.m. So.
Now, do you
Yes.
own the entire
Yes.
Wagon Wheel area?
Yes.
But you guys are only focusing on these 2 areas to actually have some type of retail space, right?
That's where our retail is. All of our 50,000 square feet retail is located. It's mixed use. It's ground floor below apartments.
Now, you have actual tenants in the mixed-use residential parts already. I believe it's 18, right? The
Yes, sir.
junction?
Yes. There's 219 residents in there right now. The one playing area that's on the screen here, playing at the town center, is under development right now.
And what is the parking, situation right now with these 8 locations that are going to be selling alcohol? I understand that there's a parking structure, but
So right now, we have on-street parking available. We have angle parking that you can see there, and if you drove out there, you'd see the angle parking along Wagon Wheel Road. It circles around and comes around on the other side of PA 18, and we have parking available surface parking available behind PA 18, and then there'll be some parking along Spur Road. And then the parking structure is really where the majority of the parking is going to be on PA 17. I wish I would have wrote that, and that's one number I didn't write down, but we have well above the requirement of the specific plan. Thank you, Veronica. So the majority of the parking will be in that PA 17 area.
now, in addition to the community workshop, did you or anyone from your company do any public outreach to the tenants that already live at 18?
They were notified, and they were available to come to our community meeting, so that was the notification. I didn't go have a meeting within the PA 18 area, no.
So there was no additional, it was just whatever the city required to have?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Just had on the page 1 of the presentation, and I saw it before, that you mentioned it about the bowling alley. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you're aware of, but there's a sign in the collection so would there be 2 bowling alleys, literally?
Well, if you could make that one go away, we would be much happier, but we are looking at that. We think maybe we can present ourselves differently than that bowling alley, and we're looking at ways to make ourselves different and unique, and that's what it's going to take. But we were a little disappointed when we heard about it ourselves, and so we've been looking and researching, trying to figure out a way to make ourselves different, and that's what my owner's committed to making that happen.
Too bad we can't bring back the ice skating rink.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Dozier.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again for being here. I I know that the wagon wheel, the way the development is coming along, I'm kind of, I like what I see so far. I like the fact that there's a mix of moderate and affordable housing with the high-end apartments. So if you don't live there, you don't know the difference.
Right.
And I see that the overall project's trying to create a community environment. So the retails that are there, I'm hoping that they're focused and centered around promoting that community. That way people don't have to walk across Oxnard Boulevard and over to the Esplanade or the Collection. They can just come down from their apartments and hopefully enjoy some of the retails that'll be there. So the bowling alley you mentioned, and yeah, there's going to be competition across the street, but Wagon Wheel has history with the bowling alley, so I think you guys have a little bit of a chance there. Are there any other types of retails that are similar to that, where they're kind of family oriented or event oriented?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have tenants, so I can't commit to specific uses until we get tenants, because we've got our shingle or our sign out, but we like I said, we have a nail salon coming in. The convenience store, I think, will really be serving to the residents. I don't think a lot of people are going to necessarily come there specifically for that. Right. And then we're looking at things such as a barber shop. And other uses like that I think would be really cool. There's some cool barbershops that you see out there that are unique these days. Right. So again, we're open for cafes. We're looking at some cafes. We'd like to maybe get something for the morning hours, the breakfast hours, for coffee or food service for that. So yeah, we think this biggest selling point for our future tenants is that we have residents right there, 24/7. That can use our facilities. And that's the whole purpose of a mixed-use community, is to get people to come down there. And you meet your neighbors, you come down and hang out with your neighbors and do things, and that's what we hope will happen. But we just got to make it happen.
And one other thing I would mention that you guys I'm sure you're aware of, that there's a footpath to the Esplanade, which just opened up a brand new Starbucks. So
yeah.
Coffee competitions across the street, too.
we duly noted every time something new opens up and around us.
Thank you again, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair Chua.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Yes.
Planning Area 18, that's a mixed-use area.
Yes.
And I have the impression that the A's and the B sites for alcohol consumption has residences upstairs, correct?
Yes.
So how would you control vibration coming from inside those tenant spaces from not going into the upper units?
So good question. So and I'm glad this slide's up, because you can see the tenants, the construction of the junction in the retail area that's at the corner there. That's all called podium construction. So it's all concrete built. So it's concrete manufactured, put up, so you have a concrete deck, which is going to help tremendously with sound attenuation.
But it's not going to eliminate it.
What's that?
It's not going to totally eliminate it.
It's not going to totally eliminate it, but we're going to put in mechanisms so we can do it. And the staff has suggested we do some sound studies.
Soundproofing?
We're going to put as much soundproofing as we can to help mitigate that.
Yeah, because my concern is that if you take in a tenant, okay, and then the tenant's entertainment system would bother somebody from the tenants upstairs, then would you tell them to stop?
Well, I'm sure that if we get a call from Scott's folks, we will be having to deal with that.
Because I'm putting myself in one of those residences upstairs. And if I have to hear that every single night, no matter how faint the noise is, some people are sensitive to noise.
I understand.
Especially at midnight.
Right.
So what are we going to do?
Well, we're going to have to deal with that and attenuate that issue. We're either going to have to stop it or reduce it or something, because we will, as the owner of both facilities, we own the rental for residential and we own the rental for the commercial. We want both people happy. So
well, I want assurances that our residents are being protected.
Right.
And I don't see that assurance here in these conditions.
Well, we have to do a sound study as one of the conditions. And that will address that issue. So it will address it that we have to do, if the sound study shows that there's issues, that we would have to provide modifications to our construction techniques and everything else to attenuate that noise.
Yeah. It also says the police can intervene.
Right.
I understand, police can intervene, but if somebody's being bothered every single night, you know, and I've had that problem before, so I know.
So if I can, from staff's perspective, just to give some hard numbers out there, our building code requires that our residential, the interior side of a residential unit to be built to a certain standard. The 45 decibels, I believe, is the building code standard off the top of my head.
Inside the house, yes, 45.
Inside the home, it would be the same standard that we would be looking for any other sort of noise intrusion.
Even vibration.
Even vibration is what we're looking for.
Okay. Another question. This would be an easy one. Loitering. How do we prevent loitering? Because I understand that, you know, this is a mixed use. People can get drunk and
Right.
people can be hanging around. I mean, loitering. There's a concern about homeless, and my concern is also, homeless and the and people who are just drunk, who doesn't want to go home, stay out there. Do we have? Are your securities required to shoo them away from the property?
Yes, yes, we have patrolling requirements that start at 6 p.m. and then end after alcohol is sold and people leave. So we would ask that they hang out to make sure we have people loitering and hanging out in the parking lots and causing noise and issues like that. We definitely are committed to do that because that's the last thing we want.
So, understand. So, are you okay with a condition that would require you to prevent loitering on your premises?
Yes.
Okay. So, because it's not in any of these proposed conditions.
I mean, I don't know if loitering is defined in the city code.
Good evening,
Hi.
Commissioners. I'm Scott Swenson with the Police
Good evening, sir.
Department. In handling loitering on private property, which these structures are on private property, the security officers employed by that property owner can remove people and have them arrested for trespassing once they're told, you need to leave, you don't have lawful business here, you're loitering, and if they fail to leave, then they could subsequently be arrested.
Okay.
So that's the way that situation would be managed on the private property.
All right. And the easier question, outdoor spaces. You have one in each planning area to have an outdoor dining, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna have, or do you think, or do you foresee anybody having amplified music within the outdoor spaces?
There could be a potential for that, yes.
And how do we prevent that from bothering the?
Again, it's the same sound study would address that issue, and at some point, if it's the sound study shows we'd have to have quiet hours, and either have it inside or turn it off and don't have it at all. But for the most part, we see it mostly probably not being a band, but more of acoustic guitar player, someone singing and that kind of stuff.
So not the kind that the other side has, right? Levity Live.
No, we don't see the Rolling Stones coming in or anybody like that.
Well, I wish they would, but
me too. But no,
that one would get an exemption.
Okay, I'll remember that. But
And
no,
the
yeah,
Eagles,
we see it more as entertainment to keep people so they
Okay.
stick around.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes, Chair Frank here just a few minutes ago mentioned about how about the skating rink. It was very, very popular when it was there. Would you have in any of those retail spaces that you are going to rent out, would you have room? And not that we're telling you what to do with your development,
Yeah, it
but
was so popular. All the competition took place there.
would you have a building that would have enough square footage for something like that?
We do not. We do not. The
Too
tenant
bad.
breakout is such that it just doesn't condone that.
Yeah. Too bad. Yeah, the parking structure. Anyway, anyone else? Chavez?
Question, your security personnel, what are the hours that they're going to be operating?
Well, they would be operating per the condition from 6 p.m. until the last alcohol is sold, till probably like 1 for sure, and I would think we would have until 2, so we can make sure people leave and get
It
outside.
says 30 minutes after 1 o'clock, so that would be 1:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only question that is because the hours of operations to sell alcohol starts at 7 in the morning. Are you anticipating that you're not going to have people loitering between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m.?
Can I speak to that? It's been our experience at other restaurant sites that loitering, that kind of thing, just does not happen until the evening hours, and that's when it tends to have that kind of activity come up.
And I appreciate you making that comment because now I question the homeless component in the area, homeless loader anywhere. And when you have a retail location selling liquor, one of the conditions in the staff report, page 8 of the staff report, condition number 71, it says that it prohibits the sale of mass-produced, low-priced, single-can containers with alcohol sales for off-site consumption. But then it also says in the midway that the police department may lift these restrictions in the minor modification process depending on the type of business model. Then a little bit further down, it says that if there is a history of issues involving the applicant, that the single can will be prohibited. So that concerns me because homeless, if there's single cans being sold at a liquor store, aren't the homeless going to be loitering around that area throughout the entire day?
They could, and it's incumbent on that person holding that permit, which we've had a lot of conversations, and Corey and the applicant, concerning that operation and that concern. And I believe the crafted conditions will address that problem, and also coupled with issues of enforcing any habitual drunk issues, people who've been identified as problem folks with alcohol, to the police department, where those people can specifically be prohibited from making use of those businesses.
And who prohibits them if it's before the security gets there?
That would be the responsibility of the person with the permit, but the police also can act on it.
Just going back to what the vice chair brought up in regards to the noise, condition number 14 says that staff may require. To me, that kind of makes it sound that there's a possibility that a noise study would not be required, depending on whether they have indoor or outdoor amplification noise, correct?
It really depends on the type of business model that would come in through the minor modification process. If the commissioner feels that it should be, should be changed, then the commission can consider that.
Okay. Last questions was comments in regards to the community workshop. A lot of it brought up that possible noise disturbance at night, vandalism incidents that have been already occurring, and then homeless living nearby. The tenants that are going to be occupying these spaces, how much space out in front of their stores that they're occupying are they responsible for? Or is it up to the curb? Is it 300 feet? How much is
They are responsible. I mean, from a rent standpoint, they're not responsible for any of it. But they would probably be responsible for anything that in front of their door, at 10 to 20 feet in front of their door, and beyond that, it's part of the community, and all that. So we believe me, we don't want loitering, we don't want vandalism. We have conditions already in place that we have to clean up all vandalism. And we've seen, believe it or not, since the construction of the project, we've actually seen the homeless issues on the property itself be reduced. Where we've seen less homeless come through, and we're finishing up our last few sound walls around the project, so we'll even have less, we believe, after that. But they're actually, the amount of homeless on site is actually being reduced because of all the development and all the people on site.
And then I guess this last one is for Mr. Swanson. In regards to, it's on the police report, page number 4, all alcohol establishments, number 2, under the title of police operating conditions. One of it says that the employees and immediate supervisors need to complete a course in responsible beverages services within 60 days of license granting or of the date of employment. Is this an annual refresher course that the employees and the special use permittee needs to accomplish, or is it a one-time?
It's a one-time, and this program has been in place for, I want to say, almost 20 years. And we have a contractee who provides that training. And as new employees come into that profession at one of our sites that are conditioned, they end up going to the class as part of the conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Chua.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, on the question of loitering, my concern is if the question is, if there's somebody loitering without the security force or security personnel, then enforcement is placed upon the city of Oxnard. So it's going to take up our resources to shoo away people or homeless or loiterers away from their property. So my question is there a possibility that management, your management, have a hotline where people can call so that they can take care of that loitering issue? I'm trying to prevent Oxnard resources to be used on a private properties, issue, because we're issuing the special use permit, and that may cause it.
What do they do at the collection?
The collection has got private security around the clock, 24 hours. In the case of this site and the nature of the site being overwhelmingly residential, the way the conditions were crafted was foreseeing the bulk of the problem being during hours of darkness when alcohol is being sold.
Right.
That's not to say it's not going to happen other times, but during those hours before 6 p.m., there will be on-site employees of the property, and they can act as the security guards were in the sense of saying, you don't have a legal right to hang around on our property, we'd like you to leave. And then once they refuse to leave, then it would be like, same thing with a security guard, they would call the police and say, we have somebody that needs to be arrested for trespassing.
Okay, so I agree with that. That's good. Now, can we have like a hotline listed somewhere on, residents being given this hotline so that if they have this problem that, they can call and report this right away and, action can be taken?
I actually think that was part of our discussions that we had, that there would be some number that the residents could call for the master HOA for issues, whether they be maintenance issues or problems at the site.
Okay.
To address that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. Just a question in terms of is there a CFD that is similar in scope to how RiverPark's CFD work? Because I know, being a resident of RiverPark, that we pay a small fortune that then supplements the monies that the police department needs to provide enhanced patrol and that sort of a thing. Is it similar at Wagon Wheel?
No. Our CFD does not include patrolling. That's coming out of the HOA's coffers. So our CFD, we do have a maintenance CFD, but it's really just for maintenance of the trail and landscaping and other amenities like that.
Okay. So then the HOA, the dues that go for the HOA, that covers the private patrol?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, not, there's no additional that supports police?
No.
Beyond standard property tax?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much. I have two speakers on item F1. The first one is Jackie Tedeschi.
Thank you. I was on October 21st, which was a Monday, I attended the workshop, and I was the only one there except for one woman that I had never met before that lives on Yearling, and so it was nice to see her there. I don't recall her asking any questions, but she was happy to hear what was stated. Now, I had all the questions that I had Not as many as you commissioners have just done, but basically pretty similar. I had asked the questions, and also Veronica and Corey, and also I had to contact many phone calls with Corey and also with Veronica on the project. Now, I also invited Corey for October 24th, which was a Thursday, for my neighborhood council meeting. And he talked under public comment, but then after we had our election and we had a presentation from Assistant Police Chief Eric Sonstegard, he was able to answer more questions then. But the other thing is, after the meeting was done, there were a couple people that showed up. They couldn't get there at 6 o'clock. And so they actually had talked to Veronica and to Corey, correct? And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have turned around. But so a lot of the questions were answered, and a couple of the people that were at my neighborhood council meeting, they said that their questions had been answered. So past that, I can't say anything more than that I am, as a resident of South Bank, I can't speak for everybody as the neighborhood council chair. I am for what was presented to us. And I liked also hearing especially that the review of the alcohol licensing was on a case-by-case basis of whoever comes in there. I mean, that, to me, that's major. And the lighting, and of course, and by the way, the homeless has been much better. I go through there at least, say 4 or 5 times a week. Right now, I use it as a cut-through instead of going on Vineyard, but that's going to end. But it's a beautiful project, the whole area. And so, anyway, I want to compliment staff and the contacts that I've had. And Corey also gave people his cell number. And so I'm sure that he doesn't want a lot of people from South Bank contacting him, and saying, this isn't good. But so I appreciate all the work that has been being done there. And I would assume pretty soon that the IMCO will have a neighborhood council set up for Wagon Wheel, because they should, with a lot of people moving in. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Jackie. Pat Brown?
I'm going to offer some problems, and I'm going to also offer the solutions. I, as a young 19-year-old student, lived in downtown San Francisco, north of, in the Powell and between Powell and California, south of California and west of Powell Streets, if you know downtown San Francisco, and lived in an apartment on the street just above the bars and stuff on the ground floor. And we had windows, of course, looking out on it all. So I have some experience living with the extra noise that goes on in bars and nightclubs and stuff like that at an early age where I was. Okay, I also was involved with the RiverPark group, which was Responsible Alcohol Policy Action Coalition, that was put together by Cliff Ware, one of the police officers here in Oxnard who retired several years ago. I was in with a group that were residents scattered all over the Oxnard area, so that he could try and get, a real good idea as to how different neighborhoods would work with what. We were involved with the conditions, putting the conditions together, because each time we'd get new licenses, permits coming in, requests, then we would go out individually, go out to the locations and see what the problems that could happen in those particular areas and what solutions we could have. So that's how those all came about. That was for a number of years we were doing that. And I think there was probably about 15 or 20 people involved in it. not all at once, but the majority of it. So anyway, what I'm suggesting is where you have housing above the noise from the bars and the music and whatnot, or a restaurant that's really gets exciting and whatnot. The best thing to do is to put the young single people in the housing directly above, because they won't complain about the noise. They'll just deal with it. They'll just deal with it or go down and be part of it. But they will not complain. If you put seniors up there or directly above, or you put young adult, mid-family adults, they're going to complain.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
I have one more suggestion.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
It's very important because we dealt with
Just
it,
go
and
ahead.
that's how I
Just
know
go
about
ahead,
it.
Pat.
Patio dining, okay? When you're serving the liquor, you make sure that those that are going to be using the liquor, drinking, are not right where the people are walking by. Even with a low fence, it doesn't work because they can hand over the beverage over the little fence. What you need to do is we had to go through this and have it changed. We had to have the people who were going to be drinking up against the building, and then where the little fence is or the shrubbery or whatever, they can't reach in and grab anything or be handed something easily. So we solved the problem.
Okay, thank you.
If people
Enough.
will
Thank
keep
you.
on doing that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brown. All right. This is public comment on item F1. I don't have any other speaker cards. All right, I'll close public comment. Commissioners? Okay, I'll move the recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion by Frank, second by Dozier.
Chair Frank,
Yes.
staff has a quick observation that there was a recommendation to delete condition number 21. It was
Correct.
a duplicative one.
Yes.
So we wanted to point that out, and I believe that's part of your motion.
Yes, I thought she took it out in her presentation, so I didn't repeat it.
Okay.
Anyway, yes.
And then the other request to make edits to what is condition 80 in the resolution.
Yes.
To add the specifics of Wagon Wheel Village
Yes.
specific plan.
Yes.
That language as the police department drafted conditions originally, and then we finalized conditions in the resolution, staff caught that same thing. So as condition 80 is currently written, we believe that's taken care of, so we just wanted to point that out.
Perfect.
The only other,
Well, then you've got a, you've got a inconsistency within the same document. Oh, no, you don't, because the resolution has it. Okay, I'm with you.
correct. The only other item that we heard tonight that the commission brought up in terms of conditions and maybe refinements to it was a question about noise. So condition number 14 is the one that has the noise studies, and we haven't had a chance to confer with the applicant as we've been sitting here. But to give comfort perhaps to the commission, the condition currently reads, business establishments proposing indoor and outdoor live music or any type of amplified sound may be required to submit a noise study with their application for a minor modification for staff review and approval. Staff would suggest, if the commission is open to it, to possibly add this sentence, sound shall be attenuated to the city's adopted interior and exterior thresholds as contained within the Oxnard City Code. If you want us to give specific statistics about that, we can, but it would leave it general.
I think that's a good idea, so I'll restate my motion to be inclusive of those two resolution conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Do I have a second? Who seconded me before?
Second.
Dozier. Motion by Frank, second by Dozier. Roll call.
Chair Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner Dozier,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
No.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Fearing,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chua.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to election of the vice chair. Do I have any nominations?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would
Please.
like to nominate Commissioner Sanchez with this agreement to be Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Roll call?
Vice Chair Chua,
Yes.
Chair Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
I abstain, and I want the record to reflect that the reason being that I already had conversations with our two attorneys, Mr. Roselle and Mr. Fisher, in regards on the process on how this item came before our commission once again.
Thank you.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Fearing,
Yes.
Commissioner Dozier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We'll move to item G, study sessions. We have no study sessions or reports. Do we? Do we have any reports? No reports. H, Planning Commission business. Anyone have any business? I see none. Oh, I skipped all those anyway. I took that vote out of order. Doesn't matter. All right. So it looks like we'll stand adjourned.
If I could really quick.
Sure.
We jumped over community development staff updates.
Where was that?
It's number I.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Let's go back.
so
I'll
we're-
I'll reopen.
Thank you. Very quickly, just a couple things that the City Council and their subcommittees have recently done. January 28th, the City Council's Housing and Economic Development Committee met and discussed the formation of a property and business improvement district and possibly the creation of a Zocalo in South Oxnard. The committee found that idea favorable. Essentially, it's reinvesting dollars into a particular geographic strip along Saviors. It was something that staff is now going to be working on and eventually taking it back, but that's something that's in the works. So I just wanted to share that all with you. Jumping forward from January 28th to February 4th, just 2 days ago, City Council had 2 items on their agenda that had relation to Planning Commission prior actions. One was regarding the prior 7-Eleven that was proposed at Saviors Road. That action was very simple. It was simply taking that appeal off the agenda and calendar per the request of the applicant as they continue to work with us in terms of other potential uses for that property. We will renotice neighborhoods and interested parties when that is ready to come back before the City Council. The second item that they reviewed on Tuesday was the Rio Urbana project. This is one that you had reviewed, forwarded recommendations. City Council followed your lead and approved the project last night. So it's the zoning still has to come back for a second reading, and then we still have a trip over to the to LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission. So we're not done yet, but that'll be the final step as we try to get annexation accomplished here. And the only other thing for the Planning Commission is your next meeting is 2 weeks from now. It looks like it's going to be another short item with a coastal development permit for a triplex on Neptune Square and a alcohol use permit for the Oakmont Senior Community in RiverPark. Those are the 2 items before you that evening.
Nice. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. Have a nice evening.